if you're estranged from your kids, you're getting divorced from your wife, you got issues in relationships all around you, you feel far from God. That's like walking around with like a limb hanging off.
Yeah. Holding
like,
your inner
entrails. All my insides want to be on my outsides.
My entrails.
And if you had those kind of symptoms in the physical realm, you would go to the doctor.
Yeah.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson hanging out here with S.J. Jennings, and we are about to talk about, I'll say this, one of the great oversights of Christianity, if I could be so bold, and that is healing. You know, Jesus said, "I came to heal the brokenhearted, sight for the blind, prisoners, set prisoners free." I mean, that is his inaugural kind of ministry launch into, I'm here. Here I am, and this is what I'm here to do. Big purpose statement. Big. And so, obviously, the implications, SJR, is we need healing. We need healing. And not just the physical, but the heart, the spiritual, the soul, the inner man, and the things that, that have been broken and bruised over our lifetime and what He's come to do. So
I got like 6 things I got to say. So just off of what you just said.
So keep your 6 things.
This.
Okay.
I got to say this.
Okay, you're not going into wounding, right? We
I'm just saying, why do we walk around, like if you've got symptoms of a major problem.
And I just told you I have a little
physical.
I have a little sniffle.
So I'm not even talking about, I mean, if you're estranged from your kids, you're getting divorced from your wife, you got issues in relationships all around you, you feel far from God. That's like walking around with like a limb hanging off.
Yeah. Holding like, your inner entrails.
All my insides want to be on my outsides.
My entrails.
And if you had those kind of symptoms in the physical realm, you would go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And yet so many of us walk around with those symptoms in the spiritual realm, and we just walk around with them.
Yeah. We accept them
and figure this is how life has to be. And it's directly tied to one of the things I've been talking about a lot lately. We've been talking about it, how we go to the cross and then just stay there.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the foot of the cross, which we need to do, but we stay there at the foot of the cross with all of our symptoms, with all of our crud on us, and we don't move through the cross. Jesus went to the cross, but He didn't stay there, and He doesn't want us to either. Yeah. So talking about
I got
our
6
wounds,
things.
So talking about our wounds, but talking about healing, I mean, it's hard sometimes to find, like, where did my woundedness come from? The symptom is different than the wound, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, but man, the healing is so important. Yeah.
All right, 7 things now.
Yeah.
Where did my wounding come from? When you go into a doctor's office, you fill out forms.
Right. Have you had this before? This happened to you?
Is this in your family history?
Yeah.
So all of that. So, there's more attention given to your family history, literally in a physician's office, than you give in the spiritual.
That's right.
Reality of why am I feeling this way? What's going on? So
what if we took that like intake form?
Oh, let's do it.
But we hand it out to the guys at the weekend.
What are you coming in with?
Yeah. What's your family history?
Divorce?
What? Yeah.
Adultery?
Was your dad an alcoholic?
Alcoholic?
Yeah.
Drug use?
Bro.
Passivity?
Somebody write that up. Write that down.
Passivity? Anger, aggression?
Yeah.
Couldn't hold a job?
Oh, man.
Held one job for 50 years.
Family history form.
I mean, what in the world is contributing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly contributing. Now, I've got some of those things from my parents, from my family. I'm talking about the physical realm now.
Yeah.
Right. My mom, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
diabetes. They want to know that when they're giving you your annual physical,
Mm-hmm.
exam.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had cancer?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, all of that to say,
Mm-hmm.
life outside the garden has a pretty high tax and a pretty high toll on the soul, on the heart. And this, if anything makes sense, I hope this will. How have people handled your heart since the time you arrived on this planet?
Yeah, the majority not well.
And if those people's hearts weren't handled well, you see this passing down, you see this progression. Mom and dad, we're not driving buses, throwing them under it at this point, and yet these are supposed to be the people who care for you, love you. And yes, that doesn't mean there's not boundaries and rules and disciplines and consequences, but they're there to help you learn those and navigate those. Unfortunately, too often they're there in many ways reinforcing some of those things that the kingdom of darkness is doing, because that's really the agents behind so much of the wounding, is our false self, our parents' false self, and the enemy's work in and through them. And so, whenever we sin against somebody, and when you scare your little one because you're talking through your teeth angry because they didn't do something or they did something, and you're here, you usually forget about it the next day or even by dinner. But there's impressions, there's imprinting, there's a way that wounding happens, and it's in a moment where your heart wasn't handled well or it was missed. So there's the aggressive kind of wounding.
The things that happen to you.
What are you? And even on the far end of those spectrums is abusive things, no doubt.
Sure.
Physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual abuse. And so, but it's those micro things, right, that often kind of go unmanaged, undetected.
Yeah, the message of the wound gets repeated over and over again, like 1,000 paper cuts,
and it becomes a normal.
Yeah.
So to talk about healing, SJ, that's just I don't want to get too far down the path.
No, because the other thing you were about to mention, I think, that you didn't end up doing, but there's those kind of wounds, and then there's the wounds of passivity.
That things that should have happened,
right, in a moment that you should have received love, that you should have received care, that you should have received rescue, and you didn't.
Yeah, a conversation, investigation, a kind investigation. Investigation
just
sounds
a question.
Yeah, Are you okay?
A statement, right?
Are you okay?
Right.
I've seen some things on Instagram that I think, oh man, that's wounding. Scaring kids or kind of funny, but then I'm like, I don't know, that kid may not be all right in 10 years.
Right.
That may be one of the stories we hear.
Yeah, kid falls off of something and his parents are just laughing at him.
Yeah. See what happens, So anyway, and I've heard stories as incidental as that from men 30 and 40 years later that weren't incidental to them. They were the story that comes up when asked, about wounding moments, wounding messages in those moments. So I was just talking with a bunch of guys last night, and wound agreement with the statement of the wound. So I tell a story about, in King Me, I tell a story about literally having a guy, another boy, this is, I think, 7th grade, and this is when teachers had paddles. So there was corporal punishment.
Oh yeah.
In junior high that we survived.
We did. We did.
So, but Jeff King, I don't know where you are, Jeff King, but this was you, bro. You did this back in Mr. DeShazo's science class at Skelly Junior High. I can remember it all. Skelly.
Interesting.
W.G. Skelly, oil guy. Oklahoma now, so.
Right.
Anyway, I am throwing him under the bus. But the point is, he's trying to get some answers from me on a test. We know the rules. Hey, Mike, why'd you stop it? You're going to get Mr. Thompson, Mr. King, and it's a zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
We're literally, marched up and in front of the class, hands on your knees, bend over. So what does a moment like that do to a 12-year-old? What do you learn? You don't learn not to cheat or whisper or whatever.
Learn to not get caught.
What you do learn is to hate. You learn to the powerlessness of the injustice. You won't even listen to me.
Yeah, the humiliation.
So you learn what that feels like. I wasn't doing it. You know the rules. I mean, but I remember having that moment of shame, embarrassment, because you're going back to your seats.
Trying to sit down.
Trying to finish the essay or the test or whatever. Yeah. There's laughter, and then by the time you get another period or through lunch or whatever, you're the news. All you can wait for is the next day or two when the news changes.
When another victim,
somebody else,
takes the news. Yeah.
So the wounding moment, and I'll finish as we talk about healing, because there's this is the story that God brought up to me in a time of healing. And when I was experiencing something I was probably 41, and I write about this in King Me. So but the bottom line was, the agreement I made was, don't help other people. You have to protect yourself. I'll never be hopeless or helpless again. And to advocate for yourself. Like nobody's going to advocate for you. That was the agreement. Actually, was nobody cares about the truth.
The world is unjust.
The
people are
injustice of
unjust, and so you have to advocate for yourself.
I'm going to be a casualty unless, So if you had given me, all right, we're going to do the whole thing 10 minutes later. How you can, if I could have Groundhog Dayed that moment 15 minutes later, I would have sat somewhere else, not by him. Or he'd have whispered, I'd have raised my hand. Jeff King is trying, I'd have thrown his butt under the bus.
Yep.
And I never told my parents. I think we had to take a slip home that let them know you got a SWAT. And I think most of us knew how to forge our parents' names, in that space. So all of that to say, wounding moment comes a message. It's an event in time that imprints on you through a message, a voice, something interpreting that shame, guilt, feel those deep feelings. Yeah. And then you process them with, I'll never sit next to that guy again. I'll tell. Yeah. I'll always, all that we talk about in that. And then
my friend Nita says, like I've told you, shame, you experience shame, and about 10 seconds later, you experience contempt. Yeah. You feel contempt, either for yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
And then you make the judgment.
Yeah. I can tell you what I wish I had done.
Yeah.
And I could tell you
and that's judgment of yourself, right? In an unhealthy space earlier, probably not now.
Yeah.
But
most of us would write a different script. For instance,
sure.
Let's say that all happened and I still got the SWAT. And I take that form home and I tell my parents. And instead of potentially getting more punishment, my dad gets a little worked up and says, "Wait, what happened to you? Who did that to you? And you're telling me you did nothing. Like you did not incite this, you didn't invite this, you didn't welcome this.
You were trying to shut it down.
Had you cheated? So no, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. And then a day or so later, all right, I meet my dad and called the principal's office thinking, oh no, what? And there's my dad, there's Mr. DeShazo. And he's like, hey, Mike, Mr. DeShazo has something he wants to say.
Yeah.
Do you think that would have mended
Sure.
that broken part?
Mm-hmm.
And then for him to say, hey, I'm going to take Mike to lunch today. We won't be back. And then for him to interpret that story and say, hey, there are things that happen in the world like that, buddy. And I'm so sorry it happened.
What a different path. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But instead we carry some of those messages for years to the point that it can come up at the worst times. That wound can come up at the worst time, and rage. Because now you're older.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot necessarily advocate for the injustice that happens to you when you're 12. But when you're 30 or 40, you might take names.
Sure.
You might literally swing.
Unfortunately, I think what I did with my son was, I got yelled at, I got punished, I got sent to detention when I was a kid. Suck it up.
Yeah. That happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Happened to me, it's going to happen to you. Not helpful.
Yeah. You want to apologize to Stephen on air?
Sorry, Stephen.
Yeah. I mean, so we end up passing on probably, unfortunately, what was done to us. So it's just really, if we're going to talk about healing, you got to talk about wounding. And you could say like, dude, that was 47 years ago. And you would be right. But what I'm saying is the influence, the impact, the effect, or even the infection of a moment like that. Now, I might have had an unjust moment prior to that.
Yeah.
That's just the one that God brought to mind. I wasn't thinking about science. I have not said Mr. DeShazo's name in decades.
Yeah.
But the day that I came out of my skin with rage at a convenience store because of some injustice that took place, that I worked up until I'm literally out of control and wanting some kind of piece of justice from the guy,
pound of flesh,
from the attendant who we're about to come to blows. And there's somebody over there in that aisle getting a donut, and somebody over there in the Gatorade.
Nowadays all the phones would be out filming you.
But it's like, what is this guy's deal?
Right. Where did that come from?
That's a great question.
It is.
What is that guy's deal?
Right.
And I'm the guy.
Right.
Well, all that I couldn't do. So anyway, I drive away in just a rage, and then I start weeping. Not good to drive and weep.
No. Hard to see.
And I am in this message. I'm becoming more oriented. The kind of that when you, that kind of weeping. And then I can ask God, what is going on?
Right.
That internal explosion was the thing that led to the invitation, the not a summons, but really an invitation to come close to God and say, what is going on? I mean, maybe there was finances, maybe there were some things going on.
Oh, man.
Other things, but again.
Anytime we can stop and do that. And I know you kind of got back, God probably pretty much backed you into a corner. It's not like you were
believe
wielding that as easily as we talk about it now, but eventually you get to the place like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. But I'm doing that at the end of sobbing. I'm embarrassed, and I ask, what is going on? And 7th grade science class is the next.
Just comes right into your head.
Wait, God, I'm trying to talk to you. What is this? No, that was what he wanted me to see.
Yeah.
That, buddy.
Yeah.
This is. I want to refile this memory. I want to be your advocate. I want to show you that was unfair. It shouldn't have. That's not what I want for you. But we understand there's other There's free will. There's image. Yeah. People sin. It's not God's will that people sin.
So back to the beginning of the podcast. I mean, that's what you do. You walk. Something's not right. You walk into your doctor's office and you say, "Bro, what is that?
Yeah.
What is going on?"
Yeah.
And because he's the one that, or she is the one that knows what, that's a symptom of. Well, it works the same way with God.
Yeah.
It really does.
It can, right. You're 100% right. It can.
But it's having the awareness, and you talked about it. We'll talk about it in the next episode. Being able to even talk to God.
Yeah.
Is like, I can't talk to God. What are you talking about? God talks? What does that mean? So, but knowing enough to say, okay, this is something way deeper. This is something that is, being provoked in me. I don't know what it is or where it's coming from, but it feels like it's been there a while. And
the wild love of God is that he allows it so that he can treat it. Mm-hmm. If we'll play our part and let him play his part. I mean, you talked about it earlier on at the foot of the cross.
Yeah.
And these things that we bring.
Yeah.
Well,
you'd be bringing that rage.
Wildly.
Right?
Not all of that stuff falls off of you at the foot of the cross. Mm-hmm. There are things that come with you into your new life. Mm-hmm. And this is why we get the letters we do from Paul, Peter, James, and John, all the Beatles, all the writers of the New Testament, that there's a former way and there's a new way.
Yeah.
And you got to learn this new way. And you've been afforded the new way. So you are free, but we need to then get more free. You have the ability to get free, and you are free in Christ, through Christ. So it's a huge point of, we don't camp out at the cross. We move forward, and the process of, as an image bearer, becoming more like Jesus is a process of getting more and more free, more and more healed.
Yeah.
So I think what we found, this quote, actually Dana Andresen, I think it'd be a great quote, thought, sentiment to end on.
Is it the Jerry Sitzer quote? Yeah,
yes.
I have it here, but I want to read it because I don't want to. I swear I have it.
I have it for you.
Oh, there we go. That's right. I forgot it the weekend. I said it in session 6 or whatever it was, and then I heard you in session 7. I was like, I'm stealing his stuff.
Yeah, it's a great, because it's not, there's a reason why this doesn't happen for and to a lot of people, and I think largely because they don't go there.
Yeah.
They don't know that there's broken and wounded spaces and pieces in them.
Yeah.
That Jesus wants to, the Father wants to, the Holy Spirit wants to get their hands on.
Yeah.
And that they want your will somehow to be engaged. I don't know fully how all that works, but to know that something's not right in me, to know that there's shame and guilt and fear that have happened along the way, parents and how they handled your heart. Man, as we talk about wounding, we talk about other wounders.
Oh, yeah.
Coaches, teachers. But this cast of characters, I didn't feel like I could go home and tell what happened to me and that be as safe. And maybe it was, but that's what shame does. Yeah. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Not something wrong happened to you.
Right. No, you have contempt for
yourself.
Yeah.
For allowing that to happen or not raising up.
I should have said this. I should have done that. Absolutely. So Jerry Sitzer, the quickest way for anyone to reach the sun and the light of day is not to run west, chasing after the setting sun, but to head east, plunging into the darkness until one comes to the sunrise. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the wound in this session, which we really needed to. We thought we were just going to kind of do a quick review of it, but I'm glad we've gone a little longer with it.
But then the point was that I needed to be taken into that. Here's that 40-something, a moment of out of control that is connected to a moment of out of control and wounding, and then into this space of care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot arranged for my freedom in that.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's a way it works, and there's other ways we're going to talk
Sure.
about healing.
Yeah.
But that was a significant lesson of, holy crap.
Yeah.
It works like that? Where are my medical files in the spiritual realm?
And at that point, if you were 41, that was, 18 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're just entering into this message.
And experiencing it for the first time in many ways. I think this is why Peter goes, you don't just do my feet. Would you just kind of do all of me?
Right.
It's like,
very Peter
I'll take
thing
a whole,
to say.
do me, do all of me.
Yeah, me next, me next.
And I think that's when you start to, when a broken bone gets set, when a gaping wound, as you said, we walk around this way, when something gets repaired, it is motivating.
Yeah.
To be, wait, I don't have to live that way or under that.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to react, and everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
Not just you.
Yeah.
Everybody around
so much
you
freedom
will be happy.
Yeah.
When we get freedom and healing and something taken away. And then you said something that we'll get into healing in part 2. There's things that need to get taken away,
mm-hmm.
and there's things that need to be installed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can look forward to more. Let's just roll into the next session with
we can. Before we do, I just want to say for our listeners, if you're not sure what your wound is, one of the things that we propose, and we propose it because we've experienced it, honestly. If you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, you've heard us talk about the false self. If you're looking for your wound, then your false self is a great way to kind of trace your way back to it. It's a great place to start. Which
was a false self sighting in the convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
Just crazy. That means something's there.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
In the triggering, we use that word.
Mm-hmm.
Something in the provoking. Something
mm-hmm.
that he's now out of his mind, and that's a pretty accurate statement.
Mm-hmm.
Your false self is that crazy.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have if you had that reputation, let's say, like, oh, Mikey's got a temper,
mm-hmm.
then you might respond to that by saying, well, I just have a temper.
That's the way I am.
That's just the way I am. Yeah. So that's another great clue as to any place where you say that's just how I am. Well, you might want to do a little bit of a
when
deeper dive.
When you start really kind of looking at your false self, all the stupid stuff you say, all the stupid ways in which you control or manipulate, all of it is invitation to intimacy and healing.
Yeah.
And and you don't have to go, in the back door with God with shame. He knows.
Mm-hmm.
He knows.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's allowing some of that stuff to happen, he's not stopping you. He didn't stop people doing stupid crap to you, and he's not stopping you from doing stupid crap to people. Your will is in this thing.
Yeah.
And so that alone explains, maybe not well, but that alone explains, back to this, the wisdom, the sovereignty of God, the freedom of men
mm-hmm.
and women, the will, and how endowed we are with the opportunity to live free, to choose.
Yeah.
But when you're under the spell of the false self and its packages of wounding moments and wounding messages,
mm-hmm.
you're really not free.
Yeah, I mean, the freedom you're talking about is, you could also say, we have the opportunity to live healed.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to get healing.
Yeah.
And that is what makes us free. We're not hobbling around anymore.
Right.
So.
Right. Well said.
All right. So we'll talk about healing in our next episode a little more in depth, but give us a like, a subscribe, a comment below, share the podcast with your friends and family and passerbys on the street.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us to get found.
Yeah, it's good to be in the new season with you. And,
man, season 3.
Look forward to the next episode.
Yeah, it'd be good.
We'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.